Hi everyone, this is our first video for the Friesen Family Flower Farm here in North Texas, Zone 8B. I have been looking for a North Texas flower farm YouTube channel for about a year now, and I can't find one that is consistent. So I can't promise that I'm gonna be super consistent because this is my first one, but I am definitely going to try to teach at least what I've learned and share all the knowledge that I have, which isn't a whole lot, and we will be learning together. I'm gonna turn on those lights because it is dark. I don't know that helped a whole lot, but it made me feel like it did a little bit. I am a year two flower farmer. Last year was my first year here in North Texas. I'm in the Fort Worth area, and I grow cut flowers. My mother-in-law had the idea last year in 2024 of starting looking into it, and I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. I would love to look into that too. We are very different people. She went the small route of like trial and error on the small scale and learning what she should and shouldn't do and doing it the right way. And I went the opposite way of like diving headfirst into the big scale of things and just learning by trial and error on a big scale. So she saved a lot more money than I did. My name is Riley, and Riley Friesen, and I am with the Friesen Family Flower Farm. I'm gonna kind of just go through like how we got started, and then hopefully we can progress and learn together on this channel. So like I had said, in 2024, my mother-in-law brought the idea about, and I loved it. We live close, but not close enough to like do it together. And again, like I had said, we are very different people. So she likes to do some research and, try things and learn and get better at it on a small scale rather than spending a bunch of money and failing and then having to learn the hard way like I do. So she is also starting her flower farm just north of me, about 30 minutes. And I'm south of down here, and we have very different communities. We have very different connections. She's probably going one route, while I love the farmers market, like growing to sell to friends and family, bouquets like that. We as a family decided we were going to do a couple of projects for the family when everyone got in town for Christmas. We have a very mild winter here in North Texas. And so we can be outside in the middle of December. I mean, it's December 9th and I'm about to go outside. It's beautiful. It's like in the 60s right now. It's just pretty. I had thrown out the idea that I would love help getting my garden together. I have about a quarter of an acre garden, and I needed help putting down mulch for the rows, as well as cardboard, as well as tilling my actual beds. So I have a pretty large family, and it's getting bigger by the year. But I think there was a total of 14 adults out there, and we were just like so efficient. I think we did it all in like an hour and a half. We had people putting down cardboard, and then people coming behind and putting mulch, and then raking the mulch, and then Justin went in and like tilled up the garden rows, and then we put mushroom compost on top, and it was like the fastest ever. It would have taken me weeks, probably a couple months, to like do it all by myself, even with Justin's help. So it used to be a hayfield. It was an overgrazed hayfield. And then we let it kind of be what it was after we bought the property, and kind of like get better, I guess, reseed itself, just give it a break. So I do have to fight Bermuda grass. I have to fight weeds, fire ants, all those things that we all in Texas understand. But yeah, Justin is my husband, put out a water line for us. So I have drip tape, and I'll show that to you here. So that's how we water. We are on county water. We are not on a well, so we do have to pay for our water. I do have them on timers, which helps me a lot because I have 3 kids under 5, and sometimes I just forget. I also have a full-time job. So this is a side gig for now that I love and let it take over more than it probably needs to sometimes. But my family is very supportive, and I am very thankful for it. So that's what we did. So in 2024, we put down the beds, and then I had tried tarping it that summer. I just used black, like landscape fabric because I tried to find silage tarps, but they're super expensive and I could never get hold of a farmer. I'm gonna be honest, I probably could have been a little bit more intentional, but the farmers that I did have contact with never called me back, and to buy like used silage tarps, because we do have a lot of farmers here in the area. But I used landscape fabric. I left the landscape fabric on for about 2 months, July and August, maybe a little bit into September, but I was really eager to get started. And so I pulled it off and started working probably in September of last year, I would say. And then we finally finished it up in December with the help of my family, thankfully. So like I said, I have about a 1/4 acre garden. I had done some flowers, like just the basics last year. I did zinnias, I did cosmos, I did amaranth, which I love. It is, at first when I direct seeded it, so I put the seeds directly in the ground, I was like, oh, these are not gonna grow. These are not gonna grow. Nope, they're not doing it. I don't know. So I went back a couple weeks later and I reseeded again. Horrible idea. I had so much amaranth. And they grow. I did not realize if you don't cut them, they will continue to grow. And so I had amaranth, not exaggerating, 8 feet tall. And I couldn't use them because they were so insanely big. And then they started like flailing out in the wind, and we don't have a ton of rain in the summer. So I had to double water. But zinnias, I didn't have water on my zinnias until halfway through July. Could not figure out why they weren't growing as great as they could have been. Realized I never finished the drip tape because I ran out. I mean, it was a hot mess. And the second that I added the drip tape into the zinnias, zinnia, I don't know. I'll probably just go back and forth. That way I don't offend or irritate somebody too bad. After I put water on them, and fertilized them, man, they took off. They look great. And I did the Benary's Giant Mix because I wasn't sure what colors of what were what. And I bought all my seeds last year for the most part off Johnny's Seeds. I bought some from Walmart just to see if they would take on Cosmos. No, they did not. They just didn't. I bought some of those cheaper packets. None of them worked. I love the double click Cosmos, but I do not love the generic Cosmos. They just seem very flimsy to me and they kind of fall apart. Again, first year, maybe just didn't know when to harvest them at the right time. Probably my issue. I grew pro-cut sunflowers, which I did love, and I grew branching sunflowers, which I did not love, and that is the second year I've grown branching sunflowers. One was just in our generic garden that we have over here on the side of our house. You'll see that later. Their heads get so big and their stems on branching sunflowers are just so little that I couldn't use them in bouquets unless I stuck them in like the middle, and it just seemed too complicated. Pro-cuts, the only negative is each seed only produces one flower. And we do have a bug issue. I mean, in the sense of like it is a hayfield, so I have every grasshopper in the county looking to eat something. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to cover or deter grasshoppers this year from eating my sunflowers. Because pro-cuts, you get one flower, and if a grasshopper eats it, it's kind of done. What else did I do this last year? I did a lot of zinnias. I planted gomphrena in the spring. Realized it was too cold after I tried growing them again. I also planted celosia in the spring. Did not grow, neither of those. I realize now because I planted watermelon over where I did the gomphrena in the summer, about July, which was too late to grow watermelon. But I planted them over that. I also had planted, what else? No, that was it. I planted watermelon over it, and about the time I was pulling out my watermelon, I realized that gomphrena had started growing. So it had just been waiting until the right temperatures. So I'm gonna try that again. I loved it. So I planted more of it in the fall, about July, and man, it went crazy. So I had just planted in the wrong season. I planted aster, which were cute, but I don't think I did it right either because they only got to be about this tall in probably July. I had started them inside and then I planted them outside probably in August, and they were okay, but they were too small. I probably did that wrong. I tried pumpkins, I got vine borers. I won't do pumpkins in my flower garden again. I think and tomatoes last year. I did a whole 30-foot row of tomato plants, and I feel like all that did was just bring the pests. So I'm gonna keep all my vegetables this year in my vegetable garden, which is over by our barn, and then out in the actual flower field, I'm gonna keep filler, like rosemary, I'll do basil, I'll do dill, some of those things that like I'm okay putting in bouquets, but are also kind of like they're edible too. My asparagus, I planted out there last year. It usually, I think, takes 3 years to get that established. That's not going anywhere. And actually, good filler is asparagus ferns. If you've never used that, I love using them. They're very just light and airy, and they kind of like just spray everywhere. So again, kind of like a filler that I'll use for flowers. Anyway, I have 20, 30, or 40 to 50 foot beds. I need to look at my exact measurements out there, and they are mostly 2 to 3 foot wide. Again, going back, I wish I had been more precise on my measurements, but I wasn't. So that's where we are. I also have about 2 feet in between each row, horizontally, like it's like a 3 foot or 2 foot bed, and then I have 2 foot walk space. 3 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 2 foot. That's kind of how it goes. I use free mulch in my walkways because I get it from the transfer station here in my city, and we get it free. Unless there's something wrong with it, I haven't had any issues with it. I use compost, mushroom compost that we purchase by the truckload, and then some of my family and friends, you know, kind of help split that cost for their little gardens or whatever that they need. And I hot dressed 2 rows this year with that mushroom compost. The truck that we get delivery from broke down a couple of months ago, and he still hasn't got his truck back. So I'm trying to figure out how I can get more mushroom compost without having to spend an arm and a leg, because I'm not buying it by the bag because I need so much of it. Or I'm gonna have to shift to cow manure or chicken manure that I just have to find it that's been sitting. It can't be like fresh, or horse manure. I just have to find the amount that I need. And we have a dump trailer, but got to figure out where we're gonna get that from, or if we're gonna just wait for the mushroom compost, but I need it like now. So I'm gonna get these out. Definitely the Snapdragons. I'm gonna put row covers on. I bought some frost cloth. I used Agrabon. I think I bought the Agrabon 30, and I'm just gonna off and on. If it hits below 32, I'm going to put them. I'm gonna definitely keep them on. But if it is above 50, I'm gonna take them off. Which, good Lord, with our weather, that's probably gonna be me like on and off all winter long until about January, February. But that is what it is. It is the work of a flower farmer. We don't get a lot of snow, but we do get an occasional ice storm. I'm probably gonna leave it on unless I know it's snow and not ice. Everything that I have is winter hardy in my zone. Like I said, I'm 8B. My first frost date this fall was November 6th through the 13th. I'm obviously past that, and I don't have anything but 1 dill plant and all my asparagus planted out there. I have some rosemary that's hanging on for dear life, but everything else is gone or pulled. And then last frost date next spring, like for the winter, the last frost that we should be getting is mid-March, about spring break. So about 18th to 26th. So that is what I have. So I have plugs coming as a backup in case all this doesn't work out. I have to just figure out where everything is going to be planted. I did it in the spreadsheet. I have already since forgot where it goes. I need to look it back up. My problem is I like looking at the spreadsheet and then going out there and then making a different plan, and then I have to readjust my spreadsheet, etc., etc. I have to go, I bought these, so I have row covers, and I have, I bought these, I don't know, they're from Amazon, hoops. They are small and short, and I have to like link them together to make a arch over my garden beds. And since then, my beautiful mother-in-law has found stainless steel, I guess, arches that are a better idea, but I cannot return these. So I'm gonna use these this year to put over my plant or over my beds, and then she's buying some, and then I will like eventually move into those because I'm gonna need more than what I bought. And then I'll put my tarp over that, and then I bought these sandbags, and we have a bunch of sand at the back of our property that we dug a pond out for, and we use part of that topsoil for our house pad. And then I'm gonna go out there and I just need to fill these up with sand, and I will put those on the outside of the arches where I put the row covers on. I'll put sandbags to keep them down. Last year I used the staples, the ground staples, and they didn't stay because the soil isn't super like hard, it's soft, and so they kind of just pulled out. So I had tarps flying. Oh, it was a nightmare. Anyway, I tried really hard this year to get all that stuff purchased and ready. I just have to prep it because last year I planted carrots out there. That's what I had out there. Carrots and lettuce and oh gosh, what else? Onions. And Justin was at work and the kids, I put them down for bed and a freeze was coming, and it was gonna be like a hard freeze, like 22 degrees or something. I'm really regretting my decision to do a garden. It's really cold outside and I don't want to go out there, but I planted onions and they've already like done really well. And when I planted them, the nursery people told me you don't have to cover them unless it drops down into the teens. Well, guess what? It's gonna be 14 in the morning. And I forgot to cover them. So that is where we are. Wish me luck. I'm out there by myself. There's no electricity out there by myself with my car lights shining on the garden, trying to figure out, like I found a tiny tarp and I'm using like round tomato cages and like laying them horizontally or like on the ground over the carrots and trying not to break off the tops of the onions, and putting the tarp on that, and then putting 2x4s that I found in the barn, like, and rolling that on top like of the tarp to kind of keep it like round and then not to like fly off. Oh God, I was freezing. I think it was like raining too. It was like cold freeze. I'm angry and everything was just uncomfortable and not working, and I was just so unprepared. And so this year I'm like, I'm not gonna be in that situation because everything bad, if you are a fire wife, everything bad happens when your husband is on shift. Stomach bugs, tornadoes, I don't know, electrical issues, plumbing issues. They always happen when your husband's on shift, no matter what shift he's on. So I am trying really hard to be prepared and have a game plan. That way I am not scrambling, trying to run around frantically, trying to figure out what I'm gonna do in the middle of the night. Cause I think I put our kids down around 8 o'clock. I think it was like 9 to 11:30, and I am just mad putting tarps on and like so angry, but knowing I have to do it. And then I went out the next morning and half the tarp had like flown off, and like the onions were like half frozen, and I was like, they're all doomed. And it ended up being fine. It was fine, but I just don't want to be in that place again. So I am prepared, but also behind, but also ahead, but also don't know what I'm doing. So here we are. Welcome to our channel, and I hope you stay with me. I don't know how consistent this is going to be, considering, like I said, I do have a full-time job and 3 small kids, and I'm a kind of a mess, but welcome, and I'm glad you're here. So I hope you learned something from this channel, and if you have any suggestions, please feel free to comment, and I will see you next time. Bye.